guys, and happy Saturday. Now today I had plans to take you along and vlog at Warwick Castle, and it was going to be fantastic, but in typical British weather fashion, it was pants. Not Warwick Castle, the weather. We're talking wind, like lots of it, rain, and it was just not good vlogging conditions. So what I decided to do instead is I decided I would talk to you now about today's trip to Warwick Castle, and I would overlay footage where appropriate to kind of like illustrate what it is I'm talking about, because that makes it a bit more interesting and hopefully not too shit. Now, getting to Warwick Castle was pretty easy. We put a postcode in, but for some reason that took us to the middle of Warwick and not actual Warwick Castle. We got there about half an hour after opening and the car park was full, so we got sent to the Overflow Parking, which was a big heffing field. Now if you're going in your car and you're gonna park in a field, just make sure it hasn't been raining for days beforehand, because you're not going to get out of it. Luckily, it wasn't too bad. Managed to get out when we were done without too much of a problem. Parking is £6. Whether you're parking in this damn field or in actual parking spaces, they're still going to charge you £6 to get out. They say there's going to be a barrier, but when we were there was just a dude taking the token off you that you paid £6 5 minutes before for. Word of warning, if you are in the overflow parking, it's about a 20-minute walk to the entrance. 20 minutes! Now, we walked quite fast, so it was probably about 10 or 15 for us, but for most people, especially if you're dragging a kid along with you, yeah, factor in about 20 minutes, and make sure you remember there's going to be 20 minutes back when you decide to leave. In terms of entry, I think it was about £20 each. There's often like 2-for-1 tickets and stuff you can get, and quite frankly, it was a pretty decent day out. We're talking, there's so much to do, you would probably struggle to get it all done in one day. They do have dungeons there, but it is an extra fee. If you're there and you want to sort of like upgrade your ticket to include the dungeons, we didn't do it because there just wasn't enough time for us to get everything in. It's about £9, and I think you have to book a time slot, and they are very popular. You may get a discount if you book in advance on their website, so bear that in mind. The dungeon, we have no idea if it's any good or not. We just didn't look into it at all. There's a lot of events going on throughout the day. There was a schedule posted, and it gives you an idea of what was on and when. The first thing we did, we went to go and see the... what are they called? We went to go and see an archer, and he was demonstrating a longbow, and he was fantastic. He was entertaining, very light-hearted, and it kept the kids kind of engaged, and it was quite fun to watch. That was about a 20-minute show. We headed over to the Trebuchet. That was about 10 minutes. There was a lot of waiting around, and all it did was fire a fireball across a bit of grass. If the weather was nicer and you were able to sit down on the grass, it would be pretty cool, but because it was very windy, it was rainy, and it was cold, you had to stand up. It wasn't particularly entertaining, and you could see kids starting to get a bit bored and agitated. The payoff wasn't particularly great, but it was cool, especially if you're a history buff, or historian, one of the two. We had a little look at some birds of prey. That kind of had some like owls, a vulture, a golden eagle I think it was, just in little pens. I don't really know what to call them. Those are the sort of the animals that they use for a birds of flight show a couple of times a day. We saw about 2 or 3 minutes of that because we kind of caught it on the way out, because it was just, we were tired, it was a very long day, and we just couldn't be bothered. After the Trebuchet, and we had a look at the birds, we went to see a Horrible Histories, was it like a stage show type thing? Horrible Histories, if you don't know, a series of books, and I think they made it into a TV show, and it was pretty entertaining. It was kind of like a fun song and dance slapstick show aimed at kids about Warwick and Warwick Castle, and it was really good. And it was probably one of the most entertaining parts of the day. Great for the kids, great for the adults. I wouldn't miss it. Jen was saying that she thinks that it's only on certain days, so if you are booking in advance and it's not an impromptu trip, I would recommend you only go when the show is on. It made a difference. Unless something else is on that you want to see when this isn't on or something, you know, weigh that up, but it's a really good show. Again, you were stood up, there was no seating, and it was about 20-30 minutes at least. So then, I was starving! I had a pulled pork roll with some barbecue sauce and stuff. It was about £6, it was really tasty. Food selection there is not particularly great. If you are planning on going to Warwick Castle, I strongly recommend that you maybe take your own food. I don't think there's anyone there to police it. There isn't that much of a selection. There's so many sort of like spaces to sit and eat, like grassland, loads of park benches and stuff. Park benches type things that you can sit down and eat your own picnic. So I don't know what their rules are for bringing your own food, but you could probably sneak in something in a bag and you won't get questioned on it. For those of you that particularly like history, they do some proper historical tours. There's basically history guides that will sort of like stand in the grass. Everyone gather around and they'll talk about things. We had one that talked about the War of the Roses. Another one we went to kind of like walked around the castle and talked about the different elements of the castle. 1,000-year history of the castle and about a 40-minute tour. But again, the theme here is that you're on your feet for a very, very long time. I'm talking, I nearly collapsed. I think by the end of today, I'd done nearly 10,000 steps. 8,000 or so were while I was there, and we didn't particularly walk a lot. It was a lot of standing, a little bit of walking. You walk a lot further than you think you're going to. And when they do the tours, they do kind of drag you around a bit. Even if it is unnecessary, I think it's just to break up the tour. I don't know if there was a tour of inside the castle. Inside the castle is the only warm and real inside bit of the day. If you need to get warm, that's the only place to go. It is beautiful, absolutely amazing. They have armour on display, weapons, swords, that sort of stuff. And it's a beautiful, great hall. You can have a walk around, and they've laid out the different rooms, how they would be used or how they were used. They had a series of what I think was waxworks. Warwick Castle is owned by Madame Tussauds, so I'm assuming it's their own waxwork they put in, and they create waxworks of people that either have lived there or maybe live there, and they put photos of them so you can see the likeness and how close these waxworks are, and they're really good. And they kind of have them in scenes, like one guy's playing poker, there's a guy and maybe his daughter at a piano playing music and stuff like that. And as you walk around, there's loads of different rooms, including bedrooms, and you can just kind of get a feel of how it was used and the sort of things that were going on back in the day. I don't really know when it was, probably only a couple hundred years ago. I can't imagine that had all these mod cons, you know, 1,000 years ago. It was probably just brick, solid stone walls, and that was about it. That was pretty much all the things that we did. There was a handful of other things, including extra tours that we didn't go on. It was a hell of a tiring day. I'm talking, I underestimated it. It was cold, it was a lot more outdoors than I was expecting. So if you are going to Warwick Castle, and these are probably my recommendations, assume you're going to be stood up all day. Assume there's not going to be anywhere convenient to sit down, whether it's because most of the seating's outside and the weather's pants. Most of the shows don't have seating. I think the only show that did have seating was the Birds of Prey, and there's little sort of like solid benches, but everything else you're going to be stood up. Make sure you are prepared for that. Wear good shoes. Don't go in high heels. Wear good shoes. Not that I went in high heels, but you don't. I would recommend making sure you are layered up, so you can take something off when you go inside, because inside the castle, the heating is menace. It is really warm, but outside, particularly in spring, early spring, it is cold. So have something to go on. Do not miss the Horrible History show. They do have a couple of times boards posted around, but not as many as I think they should do for the things that are going on. So take a photo, we did, and then we could just reference that photo on your phone every time that we wanted to do something. So when one show finished, we just looked at the phone and just had a look to see what was on next. If you pre-book your tickets, you funnel through a fast pass entrance. Don't go through it. It's pants. It's like being shoved in the back door. You lose a lot of the spectacle of arriving. You know, if it's somewhere you've been before, then that's fine, but try and find a way through to the main entrance, because when you go through, you get a really good sight of the castle, and it's much more impressive. Definitely bring your own food, unless you like bog standard, cheap burger, fries. It's pretty much all you're going to get there. It was a really, really good day. One last point, in terms of taking kids, they tried their best to cater for them. They have a couple of things on, like the Horrible Histories. You can take your kids to get dressed up as knights and princesses and stuff, so it's really good that way. But it looked like kids got bored by about 2 o'clock. You had kids running around rather than sort of like watching the tour or whatever was going on, rolling around. Literally, it was raining and windy, and kids were rather roll around in the mud, I'm talking rolling around in the grass, than watching what was going on. They're going to get bored, they're going to get bored quick. So that's it. If you guys have been and got recommendations for anybody, leave a comment down below. If you guys want to go and have any questions on what to expect, leave a comment down below. If you guys are new to this channel, this is a bit different to what I'd normally do, so check out our other videos and make sure you click that subscribe button to make sure you're kept informed of our progress, because you get videos from us every single day. Why wouldn't you want us every day in your little computer or phone screen or something? That's it from Saturday. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend, guys. It is Easter weekend. Most of you are probably off. Turns out some of you aren't, which is a shame. Sorry to hear that. But enjoy the rest of the weekend. Anyway, good night, guys. I will see you tomorrow.
We have booked hotels and trips and all sorts of exciting stuff. Tomorrow I have booked tickets for us to go to Warwick Castle, which looks amazing.